I finally did it after playing through every single Midnight Club game. I can now say, as of me recording this video, I got done finishing the last Midnight Club game in the franchise. Midnight Club, Los Angeles, the complete edition. Yes, so gonna finally be talking about this bad boy once and for all because this has been the final franchise that has been under the wraps for some time now. And again, the fact that, to clear some confusion out of the way, we have LA Remix and we have Los Angeles. And you're probably wondering, hey, why did you play the two games at the same time and what have you? Well, again, as I mentioned when talking about LA Remix, this was the PSP port, and this is the official game released for the console. So I wanted to play both of them because essentially they were technically both different games. But enough about that, right? Los Angeles. So Los Angeles, with its complete edition, this one has everything out of the wazoo from every car imaginable. It also has all the DLC cars that you would have gotten if you bought the original Midnight Club Los Angeles game itself. So this one also had like lowriders, also had like a couple SUVs, a couple special tuners, luxury cars, even like a really hidden motorcycle that I had a blast driving through first and foremost. And let's start with the vehicle, shall we? So normally, if you remember when I made my Midnight Club 3 video, I would have listed down like every fucking car out of the Wazoo that are my favorites. But there are so many to choose from. I think the best way I can do this is just show you all like a screenshot list of every card that I have kept up until the very end of said game. And again, the list is pretty crazy from the 99 Eclipse to 64 Impala, the 65 Malibu, the Camaro Dub, which I'll get into as to how that vehicle is so difficult, the 06 350Z, which I was able to like kind of gear that shit up to Shing from Midnight Club 2's car, the 04 Murcielago Dub, which is like the final big juggernaut car that you can win exclusively in the game itself. There's also like a couple other luxury cars you can also win that was like prize exclusive. That's Dub Edition because that's what the game's known for. And then a couple of pretty big and like some really cool DLC like vehicles that I really enjoyed from. Let me see here. Oh yeah, so from like the um, one of the Mitsubishi Lancers with the '08 car. There's also the '71 Kimura SV, the '07 Ninja, which is the fastest motorcycle in the Midnight Club LA. I also got the DLC motorcycle, which was also super fun to play around with. Again, this game, the cars, the motorcycles that it had to offer was super super fun, and I really loved how with each time you like put an upgrade on a car, you felt the difference in set performance, which was obviously present when you played like Midnight Club 3, for example, right? But I don't know, for some reason with LA, the customization experience in the game and the cars and the amount of vehicles you can drive from was so good. And what I also thought was really interesting about the car's mechanics this time around was in Midnight Club 3, if you remember, there were special abilities that were implanted on specific types of vehicles. Not in Midnight Club LA, however. In LA's case, now the abilities, which was Roar, Zone, Aggro, and a new ability, which is EMP, you now have the option to just give those abilities to whichever car you want. So now, if you're driving a muscle car, you don't have to just use Roar to equip Roar within your car. You can now put Zone or EMP and see and let shit fly as it gets. And I really like how creative it expands upon like the customization menu of this game. And and again, there's a ton of little details and customization you can do, especially with the vinyl customizations where you can now like customize your vinyl. So where I've seen people online like even like posting like Fast and the Furious 1-to-1 cars in Midnight Club Los Angeles, and I try to do it with the Mitsubishi Eclipse. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I'm not the best person at doing it, and unfortunately, it would just take too long. It would be too forever to try and like post it before making this video. But I thought that that was really cool way to like show how much more creative you can get with the customization menu. So with the customization praise out of the way, let's talk about the races, which is the main meat and potatoes of said Midnight Club game. And in this one, it's no different, but with a few little added little new races in here from your, typical ordered races, your circuit races, you also have unordered races. And then you also now have some time trials in the mix, which some time trials, when you get through some of the missions, you actually have a chance to win a grand prize, which is a brand new spanking car that you use for the time trial, which is really cool. You also have your red light races, which is arguably one of the easiest races you can get done in the game, which is just one checkpoint, and all you gotta do is just figure out a way to navigate and who can go to the fastest destination the fastest. And then you have your highway races, which was also really cool, really unique for what it had to offer. Where again, you just once you flash your high beams, boom, you're immediately into a race within the highway and only the highway itself. It's fast, it's simple, and I really like it how it's a good way to progress through the game where you can earn respect and of course earn money in the game. And in this one, they also introduced like tournaments, racing series, and a couple like niche little like racing ordeals that shape up like your racing experience. And I like it, man. I think that in this case that we have here, this actually gave out like the most that you would want from a Midnight Club game itself. I don't know if I had to choose like one of my favorite racing type games there are. It's really gonna be the red light races that I like the most. Obviously, auto races is my bread and butter. I also love the highway races, which was like super unique for its time. Where again, you just instantly start race while you're driving on the freeway, and you just let shit fly as it is. And what's really nice about this game is that in past three Midnight Club games, you have the cops chasing you, which is like a pretty known thing in street racing itself. In this one, I feel like they actually captured, at least in my opinion, a little bit of realism when it comes to the cops and like how they respond when they see, oh, there's illegal street racing activity going on, or hey, there's a crazy lunatic driving through the fucking mall, and they actually respond when you actually do those actions, which was so cool. A little nice attention to detail that I honestly think was like really ahead of its time, and I don't see that nowadays with a lot of like modern day racing games, at least from what I can observe and what I know based off of what I've played, right? So again, the racing in this game is so good. It runs buttery smooth. However, there are certain moments and certain parts of the map that I'm gonna get into that I did not like, because some races could be a bit of a pain in the ass because either there's too many checkpoints or the racers you're racing against may have like the biggest, most unrealistic cars imaginable, and they somehow beat you because they have better upgrades than you, or they're just much better at hitting those sharp turns better than you. And I guess we'll leave it at that for the time being, as I want to hold off on another praise, which is the map. So, Midnight Club Los Angeles, this map is not a rehash of what happened with Midnight Club LA Remix, where all they did was basically reuse Midnight Club 2's LA map and just call it a day, right? In this one, they actually took the time, the effort to not only like reformat that old map from Midnight Club 2, but it is super expanded upon where there's so much little bits of detail on the map that you could get lost with so many shortcuts, so many little like hidden passageways. Even like some of the areas like Southern Crenshaw and downtown Los Angeles, I was so lost and just really fascinated by with the amount of details, the amount of like different turns, different shortcuts, different hidden areas that you had to go to beat your race, beat your opponent. It was so good. It really was unique, and I really think that, man, if this was the last Midnight Club game that unfortunately this game had to offer, I could imagine like if Midnight Club ever made like a Midnight Club Paris or a Midnight Club Tokyo game, maybe. But this is the last game, so it is what it is at the end of the day. Now, in terms of like an actual story that supposedly is present in Midnight Club Los Angeles, it's technically sort of there, but expect a lot of the writing and the said story being somewhat similar to Midnight Club Three's case, where you have some people interacting with said protagonists, but you don't get a lot of bang for your buck with the story impact. Instead, again, it mainly focuses more on the racing aspect of said game. Which honestly, like I said, when playing Midnight Club 3 and the fact that there was like little to no like presence of racers outside of the game, I respected it because they're leaning more focused on the car customization, the races, everything, right? In LA's case though, I felt like they were actually trying to like hone it back a little bit, where they were not only trying to maintain Midnight Club 3 and how special it was, but they also at times felt like it was going back to like Midnight Club 2 with its characters and what it had to offer. And case in point, you now take over the reins of a protagonist. I'm not even making this shit up. I do not know what this character's name is to this day. There's so many speculations about who this character's name is that you come across, but there are many people speculating that his real name is Matthew based off of LA Remix. However, that isn't 100% confirmed. I simply would just call him the protagonist of Midnight Club Los Angeles. But essentially, in the game, you start off as the protagonist and you come in contact with Book. And Book, at one point in the game, he's introduced as the person that's going to hook you up with a starter card, the one that you start off at the bottom of the barrel, a Class D card, the worst of the worst, and he essentially incentivizes you like, okay, take this car, make it your grandkid, raise it, cherish it, and just win some races, win with some respect, and eventually, maybe one day, you come race the big man, the champ himself, Book. At least it wasn't alluded to in the beginning of the game. And another highlight of characters I like to shout out would be like Caro, who is another big protagonist that plays a role in not only teaching you how to play said game, but also throws out tips. And he also is the guy that lets you know, like, hey, I got new parts coming from my garage. Come on by in the shop when you have the chance, so you can put those upgrades on. And it's really nice. I really like it. And Caro really is the guy that will push you to your limit, in my opinion. And I feel like Caro's character kind of reminds me of the mechanics from Midnight Club 3, where they really try to push you and incentivize you to get those upgrades, get better, get stronger, get faster, and just go from there. And then another last person I want to shout out here would be Annie. Annie is another character and possibly a possible love interest with the protagonist that you come across. And I gotta say, Annie, she is one of the more interesting female characters I've come across. I don't know. It feels like she was trying to play like Gina from Midnight Club 2, but if Gina decided to be super rich and lives in the LA scene full time in a way, I don't know. Either way, Annie's character was really interesting because I think it gave the protagonist a lot more life, a lot more flesh than just being like a one to one dimensional character where he just wants to race and that's it. I think that was really good. I think that was really like smart to just add like so many other characters in this game. And again, there's a ton of little characters in this game that you can dive into. And even more so, it even dives deep into like where the protagonist even comes from, especially if you get the complete edition or the DLCs where it takes where a lot of it it's pretty clear that I think he grew up in Southern Crenshaw in the LA scene. So again, take it with a grain of salt that I'm just spitting out character lore here at the end of the day. I think it's really good. I think that in a way, like we got back like a lot of the main core elements that was missing in Midnight Club 3, which was characters, faces, some interaction with said racer. And I really like that they brought it back with Midnight Club Los Angeles. Now, with everything that I've mentioned about this game, praising about it, I have some criticisms about this game because at the end of the day, not every Midnight Club game is going to be perfect, and I don't expect everyone to be like head over heels over Los Angeles the same way I am with all the other Midnight Club games. So first off, let's start with the pretty big one, beginning of the game. So as I mentioned, I really do appreciate that you do start off at the bottom of the barrel. You start with like three of the worst cars in the game, and you just have to work your way to the top, right? I have to say though, racing at the beginning was super rough. Like we're talking about like really rough compared to Midnight Club 1. And like I said, Midnight Club 1 was a really hard game for its time because of its janky mechanics. But in LA's case, it was so difficult because not only were you driving some of the driftiest fucking cars in the game, but they're not fast, they're not like blowing you away at the end of the day, but like man, the beginning of the game was just so hard half the time because you're just stuck with like the worst bottom of the barrel upgrades. And it sucked because like even if let's say you want like maybe another class D car from an early race, that car sometimes tends to be useless and I just end up still sticking with my starter car that I started off in the game. But once you got like a Class C car, specifically the 99 Mitsubishi Eclipse that I shot out with, that car instantly saves your life. And makes actually carries you towards like half of the game until you eventually have to, you know, pump the brakes on that car and just move on to a class B vehicle or a class A vehicle, or in my case, a motorcycle. Another criticism, the hills. The hills, I can now confidently say, after playing through this game for the past 1 month, which is why it took me this long to even come out with this video, I hate the hills. The hills fucking sucks. There are so many fucking turns and drifts you have to hit that the only way to master those hills is you have to use a motorcycle. I'm not even joking. Yeah, you can use an exotic car. Yeah, you can maybe use like the driftiest fucking car in the game, like the 350Z that I shouted out earlier. But even then, the like it is so hard to navigate in that area because of how many turns you have to hit, how many shortcuts you have to pivot, and sometimes this is one of the rarest moments where sometimes the shortcuts and the alternate routes aren't even faster half the time. And I've noticed that every fucking time I get to those races, it's just so ridiculous. And there's also like one of the tournaments where a dubbed Camaro was on the line for the prize. That one was actually the hardest race I had to deal with throughout the entire game itself because you're racing again against supercars and just hitting exactly the right moment to turn properly with those hard, sharp lefts, sharp rights, etc. And again, I appreciate the difficulty of it, but man, once it becomes tedious and you just like hone that shit down, it's like, man, can we just move on to something better, something more that I'm or like I've never seen before, if that makes sense. But at the end of the day, I do respect and understand why it's set up the way it is, and I guess the last thing I'll criticize right off the bat is the final. I wouldn't say the final race, but the last race with Book, who is the champion of LA. And in my personal opinion, I feel like his race was super, super underwhelming because once you beat the Hills champ, the Downtown champ, and the Beaches champ, you're expecting, like, okay, this should be like a best out of five type of race. But no, it's just a best out of three race at most, and that's it. And from there, you then unlock one final mission, which is the payday mission, where you have to make $1 million, give it to Carol, and you become a franchisee of the garage. And once you do that, you essentially have access to the garage for all of its parts, all of its upgrades, no charge down whatsoever, and you pretty much beaten the game as a result. And then, of course, there's bonus champs with the motorcycle champ, tuner champ, luxury champ, and the exotic champ. But with that being said, with me yapping this long in a Midnight Club video, I love this game at the end of the day. Midnight Club Los Angeles, with its DLC counterparts, with everything that it had to offer, was great. Everything about this game I felt was a final little bow to wrap up this entire juggernaut of a franchise that I have sitting at my desk here. And this game, I really wish Rockstar could pick up again and maybe make like a Midnight Club 5 or even like, as I mentioned, a Paris, a Tokyo version of LA because they had so much going for it, man. And I can't even imagine that there are so many other cars out there in the modern day and age that could be put into a video game space that I would super want to try out and test out and go ape shit at, if that makes sense. But even with that being the case, like I love this game. It's really good. Minute Club LA is a must play. I think that this is also a really good way to like maybe even get hooked on the Minute Club franchise itself. Where if you love Minute Club Los Angeles, then go check out three, go check out two, even say fuck it, check out the first Midnight Club game itself. But this to me was like a really great starter game to get you hooked on the game itself. The DLC was also fucking amazing with the Southern Crenshaw area, with the SUVs, with all the lowriders. That was also incredible. That I want to also shout out to wrap this video up. And overall, I think that this is a racing game, a franchise that I had a blast playing through, and I certainly will never ever forget, and I will always be down to replay. If someone ever comes up to me, it's like, "Hey, you want to race? Flash those high beams, bad boy." And yeah, I guess that's about it. Midnight Club Los Angeles, amazing game. And now, I guess we move on to another racing franchise. Maybe a Need for Speed in the near future. Who knows? But yeah, anyway, that's it. I'll see you on the next one. Later.